Welcome to the Ecom Profit Podcast. I'm your host, Dawn Sinkula, and today we have Leslie Kuster with us, who is a woman extraordinaire. Let's call her that. She is the author of a new upcoming book that we're going to talk about, entrepreneur, woman of experience, and just lots of amazing things that talk about women, money, entrepreneurship. Leslie, welcome to the show. So happy to have you. Tell everybody who you are and what you've been doing these last years in business.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dawn. So my name is Leslie and I'm an entrepreneur, been an entrepreneur for a really long time. Like we're talking about 30 years. And there's been a lot of different like businesses that I've had or kinds of products that I've had. And my story really is that I want everybody to know about is that I was not a successful entrepreneur for a really long time, like for over 20 years. And there was a time in my life, in my early 50s, actually, that I made a very conscious decision. It's not good enough, and I'm not really living up to what I knew I could do in my life. I really felt disappointed in myself. And I made a very conscious decision. Enough is enough. And I am going to grow my business and I'm going to get it over the 6-figure revenue, which it hadn't been for 20 years.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. My business is called Back from Bali, and I manufacture women's comfortable bohemian style clothing in Bali, Indonesia, manufacture everything there. And then what we do is we then ship everything into the US market, and I sell primarily on Amazon. So I really am an e-commerce brand. And that is really what I do.
Yeah. And I love your story because I think so many of us can relate to sort of being on this journey. We were just talking before I hit record about kind of our life before and after certain milestones, and mine being kind of the corporate space before and after corporate. And you're kind of just mentioned at this 20-year mark, or maybe in your early 50s, you kind of said enough is enough. Was there something that sort of happened, or how did you get yourself to that point where you just made the conscious decision that you were going to do something, to push yourself forward? How did you do that? Because I know many of us find that very hard to kind of get over the hump of things.
It's true because first of all, I didn't realize I was even in a hump. And I think it starts with that. It starts with some kind of like really self-awareness and just really looking at yourself. So it starts with that, because all during those 20 years, I did okay. It's not that I did horribly. I actually had 2 businesses running at the same time, back from Bali, but selling children's clothes at the time.
Okay.
And I had another business called Girl Power, which was an after school empowerment program for young girls. So, I was, let's just call it, somewhat successful. I had businesses. They both were kind of profitable. There was not actually anything that happened from the outside. What happened was from the inside of me. And the inside of me, it was something that had been growing. My husband, he worked, and, I had dreams of like buying our dream house, which we really didn't really have the money for, the kind of house that we wanted to have. And I felt, financially restricted. We can do that, but we can't do that. And, I could buy this, but I can't buy that.
Yeah.
There was this growing feeling of kind of like a restriction inside of myself that was feeling more and more uncomfortable. And I started to ask myself the question, why am I waiting for somebody else to give me these things? Like, why do I think my husband's the one who's supposed to do it, or my father, or anyone else in my life? Like, why aren't I doing it? And that question seems, I know maybe appears really obvious, but it just wasn't obvious to me at all. It was like, oh, you mean I can do it? Honestly, it never even occurred to me. I grew up, as so many of us listening, I grew up, where, the value of my brothers was to make money and all that. And the value of a woman was to find a man who made
Yeah.
money. And
Right.
was
Yep.
how I grew up. And yeah, my mom worked. She actually had her own business too, but it was not really expected to perform in any kind of high level at all. That's
Yeah.
how I grew up. So therefore, that was my mindset.
Yeah.
Well, I just started challenging my mindset and my thoughts. And
Mm.
that was how it changed.
And that's amazing because I think so many people, whether we consciously or unconsciously know it, we are kind of in a space where we're waiting for somebody to either give us permission, right, to be successful. We're questioning ourselves on whether or not we can actually do this. We have a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of self-sabotaging behaviors, things like that as well. And I think having kind of that epiphany, if for nothing else, to say, hey, let's take the pull our boots up and let's go kind of thing, and do it ourselves. And so what happened then when you kind of had this transformation? Like, explain to us a little bit of the aftermath of what came to be once you kind of got your mindset in that space.
I realized that I had been lying to myself for a long time. And I think a lot of us do lie to ourselves about what we believe, basically. So, that belief of, a guy should do it. Why should I do it? That was kind of in a way, some kind of lie, because my desire was to make more money and to be more successful. So when I got honest with myself about what I really, really wanted,
Yeah.
which that was one of the biggest keys, and that is actually key number one in my book,
Yeah.
is getting clear about what you really, really, really want. Then I started to realize, why isn't it happening? And the first thing I realized is because I was not focused. I literally had two businesses that I was running. And
Mm-hmm.
I realized that when I focused on one of the business, it started to grow and the other
Right.
would drop. And when I would then run to the other one and that would grow, the other would drop. And it was a seesaw. And I really got clear, like, if I want to be more successful, if I want to make more money, then this multitasking, multi-business life needs to
Yeah.
stop. And I
Yeah.
need to choose one of them. So that was the action I took. I made a decision. I was going to drop one of them. I was going to drop girl power, and I was going to put all of my energy into Back from Bali. And once I made that decision, I literally felt there were angels in the room. I had like chills going up and down my spine. I felt like if anyone was in the room, and they would
Yeah.
say, "What took you so long?" And
Where have
it
you
was,
been?
"Where
Yeah.
have you been? Well, why didn't you think of this already?" And
Yeah.
that was my first step, was
Yeah.
okay, we're doing it. This is the business I'm going to go for. And we're dropping the other and we're focusing.
Yeah. And, I think your book coming out is called Seven Keys to Seven Figures, right? And one of the things you mentioned is getting focused, and making sure that you understand really what you want and then focusing on that. But, a lot of women feel like it might be too late, right? In their life, it might be too late in their business, whether it's age or otherwise. I mean, some of us have been doing this for years and years, right? And we're getting to a point where, our kids are older, and is this what we're doing in life? That kind of thing. Or some of us are really young and have been doing, something on the side, or hobbies, things like that. How do you, or what recommendations or what advice, I guess, do you give women at this point where they feel like maybe it is just too late in business or life to get started or to make that shift in their mindset? What advice do you have for them?
That's your choice.
Yeah.
And really, I would say my advice is tough love. I mean, you have to decide if you want this or not. And this is something really important. Not everybody does. Like,
Yeah.
for many reasons, not everybody does. You need to really decide if this is important to you or isn't important to you. And if it's not important to you, you then need to really question yourself, what's behind that? Like, is that a legitimate feeling that, this really is not important to me? Or is there fear behind it, or
Mm.
imposter syndrome behind it, or yesterday I was having coffee with a woman I had just recently met. We're in a networking group, and she was telling me how she's so scared of success. That's
Yeah.
what she's really nervous about. And I asked her, why are you nervous? Because I also was. I had the same ideas inside of me. And I asked her why she was nervous. And she said, because she felt she wouldn't have any more time with her children any longer if she became very successful. So we have to ask ourselves, why we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And if you do want to do it, if you do want to become more successful, if you do want to make more money, the age thing doesn't exist at all. It really doesn't. And that's what I really want everyone listening to hear. It changed for me in my early 50s when I made this decision, and my business was at 5 figures, under $100,000 a year in revenue. And I brought my business up to multiple 7 figures now.
Yeah.
And the biggest surprise to me, because one of my fears was if I become too successful, I won't have any time anymore.
Yeah.
My biggest surprise to me is that wasn't true.
Yeah.
And I have more time, or as much time as I had earlier as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and I think that's a really great point about, being fearful of certain pieces and recognizing maybe why that fear is there, or the reason behind why you don't want to do things. And some of the mistakes that people make in thinking that, oh, I'm not going to have enough time with my children. Well, time is relative. You prioritize, you do different things, but it's kind of something that we tell ourselves in our head. And so you wrote this book specifically for women, right? To kind of overcome some of these things that we've talked about. Tell me a little bit about sort of the motivation of why did you want to write a book specifically? Because that's kind of a turn off of the e-commerce space. So writing a book, and then specifically a book about money and 7 figures and things like that. Sort of explain to us why now was the right time for writing a book, and what was sort of the inspiration behind it.
When you're running an e-commerce brand, you spend a lot of time just behind your computer, kind of between you and, team and, your products, basically.
Yeah.
And I have always been like kind of a seeker, personal development has always been really, something important to me. I ran the Girl Power. I actually had my master's in clinical social work. So there's this strong interest of mine as well, to help, to teach, to inspire.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to think, how in the world did I even do this? How did I build this business? I don't have any business background at all.
Yeah.
I design and make women's clothing. I don't even know how to sew. And honestly, I don't even know how to design. Okay. How in the world did I do it? And
Yeah.
I started to think about it and realized there were certain activities, decisions, actions, interactions, and outer actions that I took. And I've I've actually always wanted to write a book.
Yeah.
And during, the last few years, we all had a little bit more time at certain times of the year, right?
Right.
And and I joined a writing course called Book Doulas.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And that it was one of those did you ever want to write a book? And they help you through the process and do outlines. And that's what I did. And I kept going for it. And the more I wrote and the more I reflected on everything, the more I loved doing it. I absolutely loved writing this book. And the purpose of this book is to help and inspire other women entrepreneurs to realize that, first of all, it's never too late.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody can do it. You don't have to be even good.
Yeah.
One of the other keys in the book, keys to success, is perseverance. Just keep
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
because what happens is everybody, all your competition around you, is also having setbacks and failures and difficulties. Everybody is, if you're an entrepreneur. And one of the keys to success is just to keep going and keep going and keep going, even when things get really, really difficult. And, the other message I want to say is it doesn't get easier
Mm.
either.
Yeah.
It it's not like you get to a certain point or you get over the 7 figures or 8 figures or even 6 figures, and then all of a sudden everything is so much easier.
Yeah, all your problems are gone.
Right? That
Actually,
doesn't
sometimes might be a little on the other side of it. Yeah. Little challenging.
but it's the perseverance through it
Exactly.
all and
Yeah.
staying in it and continually being like a learner, a ferocious learner
Yeah.
to call. That's what keeps you going and being successful.
So when you think about women who, you've experienced, or you're in different networking groups with other women or other entrepreneurs, and you have these conversations around, what's keeping women from being successful, what do you find? And maybe this is a bit in the book, so we'll drop a bit of a teaser, but what are some of the things that you find to be kind of common threads as to reasons why people are not successful or they can't take that next step? What do you find to be kind of the common thread amongst women particularly?
It's actually, I really think it's a epidemic among women and girls.
Mm,
And having the girl power that I did, the running of the groups, the girls were between 7 and 13 years old.
mm-hmm.
One of our topics always was, body image, or, how you think about yourself, things like that. So I would have these girls, write, 5 things that they think about themselves. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what shocked me, really shocked me at, I would say it would start at about age 9, was things like this. Nobody likes me. I'm
Mm,
not good enough. I don't have any friends. I'm not pretty. All right. All right. This is 9-year-olds. So now let's go to 29-year-olds and 39-year-olds and 49-year-olds and 59-year-olds.
yeah,
Nobody likes me. I'm not good enough. I'm not
yeah,
attractive enough. I'm a loser, whatever. It's the same thing.
yeah,
So you ask, what is it, why this is happening with women? It's happening with women at a really, really young age.
yeah,
Uh, and this is sad, right? This is from culture. This is from our upbringing. This is from, you know, what we're how the way we teach girls, the way
yeah,
and therefore women. And it's the challenge that women have that men don't quite have this challenge.
right. It's a lot of that self-talk, right? A lot of the behind closed doors, what do you say to yourself sort of thing. And I think I heard somewhere somebody said, the things that you say to yourself, you would never say to your friend. You would never say those things to your sister or to your mother why do you say those things to yourself? Or why do you think that about yourself versus others? And I think it's such a conditioned sort of mindset that we have, like you said, even from a very, very early age, which really has created a lot of roadblocks for us in a lot of different ways. But when you think about being an entrepreneur specifically, there isn't a lot of structure as far as people telling you what to do or how to do it. I mean, you can read and you can, do all of the online courses and different things like that, but a lot of it is drive, right? A lot of it is your ability to continue to move forward, like you said. And if you've got that self-talk, it's very hard to kind of break through some of those barriers. When you wrote this book, you were doing it for women, obviously, to help them in this case. So you've seen this happen at a very early age. What are some successes that you have seen that have helped people kind of get over some of that self-talk or that mindset that gets them to the other side? What if, I mean, we talked a little bit about the drive and a little bit about that sort of perseverance, but are there specific steps or actions that people have taken that you've seen, like, those are the people that are going to be successful? Those are the women that are going to do more?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm a huge believer in manifestation and
Uh,
using the
yep.
power of manifestation. And the reason why I'm a great believer in it is because I know it works.
Yep.
Our thoughts and our negative thinking, the negative self-talk that we're talking about, is going to be there. It's just there. All right. And what we need to do is develop like literally skills of how to manage it, because it's never going to completely go away. No matter where you are in your life, you're making millions or whatever, you're going to have something. She did better. That,
Yeah.
still, my brother still makes more money. It's whatever
Right.
it is.
Right.
There's
Right.
always going to be something. And so we have to understand that this negative talk, is always going to be present. Okay.
Mhm.
But we need another set of skills to manage this, to bring our energy up
Mhm.
to a higher level.
Yeah.
And this is really important, because you're never going to be able to combat this negative self-talk with other self-talk. You're not going to be able to say, I'm successful, I'm successful, I'm
Yes.
successful.
Right.
It's not going to work on that level. So what I mean by that is we need to understand that there are higher powers. Okay. You have a spiritual self. You could call it whatever you want to, nature, to God, to whatever you want to talk about. But there is a part of you that is untouched by this negative self-talk. There's another part of you, and that part of you is the part that feels peace and joy and happiness and pleasure and all of that positive stuff. And
Mhm.
we need to like elevate our energy so that we feel that positive feeling every day in our life as well. And
Yeah.
when we connect with that, when we have skills to do that, for example, meditation, or taking daily walks, or going and hugging a tree, or you're walking on the beach, or having a cup of tea by yourself in your favorite cup, or whatever these little things are that bring you to a higher frequency,
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
then you can handle the other stuff as well.
Yeah. I truly believe in manifestation. I have done it, seen it, and lived it firsthand in my own life. And I do think it works differently for different people and how you do it and what you have to do. But I think there is something about that higher frequency. I think there is something about yeah, higher power, whatever you want to call it, and a spiritual self that just kind of is, yeah, untouched, like you said. And you've just got to be able to tap into that. And those are hard. I mean, it's hard, right? It does take work, at least in my experience. It takes an effort to kind of go into the space with yourself and to be able to really center and find it and be able to do those things. Do you have any recommendations for people who maybe are just getting started in the space, or who don't really know what what we're talking about when we talk about manifesting? How do I know what to do when I think about this?
Yeah, I do actually. So take out your computer or a piece of paper. I love journals. I have
Yeah,
probably 25 of them, or maybe
me
50
too.
from the time I was 17. You do?
I
Yeah.
have lots of journals.
You have
Yeah.
lots. So take out your journal, a piece of paper, your computer, and write down, really think about what you really, really want, and write down what those things are. Like write down maybe 6 to 10 of them. Okay. Or if you can't think of six, three, just have at least three. Write them down, and write them in the way that it has happened already, or it is happening already. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And keep that list next to your bed, or in your wallet, or anywhere where you're going to have access to it on your computer all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And look at it, read it, memorize it. Okay. What you're doing is the same thing as what advertising is doing to us. Okay. Advertising brainwashes us to buy it. And why? Because we're seeing it over and over and over and over and over. And
Mm-hmm.
even though you didn't want that red dress when you first saw it, because you saw it now 7, 15, 20 times, you're
Now you
starting
want it.
you're starting to go, oh, that must be a great dress. I see it everywhere. Do you see? And then we go buy the dress. That's what you want to do with your positive thoughts as well. You
Mm-hmm.
want to brainwash yourself. And the way to do it is to write them down, read them, memorize them. And I bring them into meditation. So I know what they are. And so when I'm meditating or breathing or walking on the beach or something like that, I then say them to myself. And
Yeah.
that's the way to start to bring manifestation into your life. And I challenge everybody listening to this to do this, because
Yeah.
it actually works.
It does. And it's
Yeah.
an easy first step, right? And it doesn't feel hard to do, to write things down, because all of us have these things that we are striving for, want to achieve and looking for. And so writing them down. And I think one of the things you said about having them, in a place that's easily accessible, that you can see all of the time, putting it on your computer, putting it in your phone, making it your screensaver, whatever it is that however you work, but having it there to remind you consistently of these are the things that are happening or will be happening, and having it very positive in that way. I love that. So as we start to wrap up here, this book now is going to be released. Well, it depends on when you're listening, but in a couple of weeks, maybe from today anyway. Who is this book really designed for? So if I'm thinking about it, is it for anybody who's in business? Is it for a specific type of person? Tell me a little bit about who the book is designed for specifically.
It's specifically for a woman who already has a business
Mhm.
and has not gotten over that $100,000 mark in revenue, or has not really gotten to the place where she feels successful at all, or she doesn't have enough money or enough freedom in her life.
Yeah.
That's who this book is for.
Sure.
It would obviously help any woman reading it who's considering maybe leaving her job and becoming an entrepreneur. It would be super helpful to any woman who is considering that too. But it's really specifically for the frustrated woman entrepreneur who is like, God, man, I just can't do it. I'm so tired of this.
Yeah.
I don't know what more to do. That's who
Sure.
this book is for.
Perfect. And it's called 7 Keys to 7 Figures. And we'll have the link here in the show notes and all of the information. But Leslie, this has been an amazing conversation. And I think so relatable for so many people. And I'm excited to read your book and to have others read it, because I think it truly will help all of us kind of get over that hump, right? That maybe many are stuck in. So if people want to check you out, or they want to find out more about you or your business or your book, where do they need to go?
Yeah, I mean, for a limited time, over the next, I don't know when this is coming out, but let's just say for a limited time. And so
Yeah.
definitely go check it out. Go to this website, and I'm sure Dawn, you'll post it, but
Yes.
it's 7keys to 7figuresbook.com. And the reason to go there is when you buy the book there, I give you bonuses. I'm going to be giving you a module from my course on action taking, and you're going to be getting a manifestation video too on exactly
Love
how
it.
to do the manifestation that we spoke about. And also you have a chance to win a free coaching session with me. So definitely go there, 7keys to 7figuresbook.com. And just to check me out in general, my website is the best place, which is lesliekuster.com.
Awesome. Well, we will have all of the links in the show notes for everyone, but definitely go check out this book and amazing bonuses that will be happening for a limited time. Leslie, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a really amazing conversation, and I know people will find this very, very helpful. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. All the best.
Awesome. Thank you for listening, everyone. And until next time.